This is a Mark 14 Bible lesson for Mythvision and Kipp Davis and anybody else who's been confused by this ongoing debate between these theology guys versus Amon Hillman. So they're saying that in this video that they're going to provide a grounded scholarly perspective. Well, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that is true. So this is Kipp's take on Mark 14:51. He is convinced that it was until the dude ran off, he was not naked, right? Because he was wearing a linen cloth, is what Kipp says, all the time he was with Jesus. All right. So now that's not what the Greek text says, but we'll get there in a second. So let's just show you what Kipp did. He takes the cloth and now makes it a actual garment of an unspecified nature that then he qualifies or clarifies and says is actually a linen robe. But it's more than that. It's a burial shroud. And it's basically over the entirety of his body and not over the junk or genitals with doing the purple thing, the whole religious right thing that Hillman talks about. So independent of the religious right concept, let's just see what Kipp did. He took a cloth, turned it into a piece of clothing called a garment, further refined it as a robe, and then turned it into a burial shroud that was over the top of his whole body. Sorry. So that's what he did, right? So here's what, and then after they did that, so they converted this piece of cloth into a burial shroud. And that was it. They're done. And then they went on to discuss the symbolic meaning of it all. Now this is the actual truth of what the text describes, as I'll show you in 1 second. That's what it describes. And they turned it into a burial shroud and then discussed symbolic meanings for 30 minutes or whatever it was. I mean, quite embarrassing. So this was the known truth. Well, the orange, not my edition, right? This is my edition, obviously. But the orange clothy thing, the robe, the piece of cloth, was the conception in 1500. Now, to Kipp is a burial shroud, but it's actually this. It's actually that. So I will now show you what it actually is, all the evidence that's available if you analyze the Greek text. It's very simple. Boom. Done. Now I'm not going to explain this here. I'll explain it more in a little while. But this is what was denied by Kipp and Myth and all their friends. I mean, how do they deny all of this important information, which supports exactly this? So we'll just get right to the chase. Cut to the chase quickly. You hover over the word gumno if you're in the interlinear Bible, and then it lightens and gives you a definition. So right from an online Bible source that I'll show you in a second, you hover over this word gumno, which means naked, broadly, and now specifically we see wearing only the undergarment. So you can see I added this truth to which is the truth according to this. Exactly what the word says in the Bible. And I'll show you where I check it even further in a little bit. But this is the nature of the situation. Why can Kipp not go here? I think it's because of this. Thomas Jefferson said that the Bible should be kept out of the hands of children only made available after their own ability to reason independently had been established through a study of both history and philosophy. Short of that, it's easy to be taken captive, zogron, taken captive by the English translation fairy tale. And I think that is the reason why these guys simply cannot objectively describe the nature of the youth in Mark 14. If you take a picture of this, if you screenshot this if you would like, you can check out the details yourself. I'll show you how I got to this in a couple of seconds. But why can I not do this? My hypothesis, inspired by Thomas Jefferson, is that these guys are zogrond. Yeah, they use the interpretive lens of the zogron fairy tale when anything ever gets uncomfortable for them. So they're sitting there by themselves, minding their own business. I actually enjoy listening. I actually bought a Mythvision lesson a year ago when I was going through all the historicity issues. Yeah, so I follow these guys and listen to the Bible scholars. I thought they were great. But then this guy shows up and tells me, hey, the story is not what you think it is. So as opposed to looking at the exact story like, gumno means underwear. So this orange thing is wrong. This is what it is. But they can't do that because this guy adds some salaciousness to it. So what do? They invoke zogron. The powerful lens of zogron is invoked. And look what happens. They minimize the truth and they eliminate it completely and create a fairy tale that has nothing to do with reality at all. So, and what they did is not uncommon as far as I can tell. You can actually see it online if you look. So I'll give you an example. This has nothing to do with these guys, but it has to do with how these guys are zogron by the English translation rather than the actual Greek words, which have really different meanings, obviously, as you can see. So this is Mark 11, and pretty much encapsulates it right here. A totally healthy fig tree wasn't fruiting because it was not the season for fruiting, so it couldn't be fruiting. Jesus cursed it anyway, which makes no sense. Why would Jesus curse an innocent tree that wasn't fruiting during the season that it's not supposed to fruit? This makes no sense. So what do? Invoke zogron quickly, and then we make up a fairy tale. You can read these fairy tales. It's just it's mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. So we go from here, and now you understand why. It's really not that complicated to me now. Why these guys cannot see this. So I will show you now how I got to here. Very simple. I did it with the Interlinear Bible and with the Greek word study tool. That's all I did. Pure word analysis without any consideration for the emotional context that has been created regarding it. So we start off with pure interlinear. All I care about are these 4 words. So that's why I make these last ones go by. They're irrelevant, right? So this is what the actual language is. A certain young man, the superficial language. A certain young man was following Jesus, having cast a linen cloth about his naked body. Okay, so we're going to hover over gumno, and then we're going to put the word gumno into Perseus and see if there's anything else that we should know about it. So naked body. Okay, so we know it's not stark naked, generally more wearing an undergarment. Okay, into Perseus we go. So you see what I did here? I would have copied. You can just copy gumno from the interlinear, put it into Perseus, click go, and boom. You get a reproduction. It says naked unclad, but qualified lightly clad, in the undergarment only. Okay, lines up perfectly right here. That's what it says in the interlinear with the actual Greek word, and we line it up with the interlinear definition and the Perseus definition, and they line up perfectly. Sometimes, and most times, the Perseus is much more detailed, as you can see here, than just the hover over. So this is what we know now, for sure, that this picture is correct. This is the right age. You'll see in a second as well. This garment here, whatever, that's not a garment, it's just a robe, cloth. Not a robe, what was I thinking? Towel. It's not a big towel. So it's not a garment is the point. It's not a garment, it's a cloth, either a small cloth, which is what it really is here, or a large cloth. This orange thing is not the size of the cloth. The cloth was what? It was epigumno. Epigumno means as underwear. So that's what we put there, loosely fitting underwear. That's what the word means. We don't care about anything else. And onward we go. So now we're going to go to Sindona. Oops, first we got to bring in Kipp so he can watch. Remember, the Zogron fairy tale that these guys put out there was that this friggin' thing is a burial shroud. I mean, my goodness. Okay, so let's get more details about the Sindona. We click on, so I hover over Sindona. We get a definition. It's identical basically, right? You can see. No further clarification was given to us by interlinear. We go to Perseus, the Greek word study tool, and we get this. Now, by the way, I should tell you, there's a longer description, not much, and it says it could be as small as a napkin or as large as imagine this way larger as a ship's sail. So the Sindona then is defined by the words before and after it. Obviously, we know that this dude is wearing this because that's what the words tell us. So fine cloth, usually linen, used for mummies, surgeons, bandages. Now Hillman's take is that there's a purple situation going on. Now this is where I do not understand. Well, I don't speak. I mean, I can't speak the language. I can read some words now, but this is what bousinès. You click on bousinès, And Buissonnaise tells us, again, it redefines it as linen bandage, consistent, used for mummies, for wounds, Euripides, Bacchae, the mystery religion stuff, and you got the purple over here. So there is way more evidence for purple than there is for his friggin' fairy tale. For me, as a an illiterate Greek guy, barely learning some words now, so epigumno means this according to the words that we have. If it was going to be around the hoo-ha itself, right, just around the hoo-ha, the junk, as Hillman claims, I thought it maybe would say epiphalos versus epigumno. I don't know. And we could deny the whole thing, but we're not going to, because we just don't know, so we're going to leave it there. We don't know. Carrying onward. And I don't care this way or this way, because what I know for sure is that it's not a friggin' shroud. It is basically a towel around the waist, is what it was. Now, who is the dude with the towel around the waist? Well, he's a younger youth, not an older youth. So neaniskos is a younger youth versus the neanias, which is an older youth. We know that. But what else do we need to know about neaniskos? Oh, look at this. This is Mark 14:51, and underlined in purple is Mark 14:51. Who is this dude? Who is this younger youth? He's a servant of Jesus, attending Jesus. So just right from just the neaniskos in Perseus, in interlinear, we find out that he's an attendant. So Kipp never mentioned that either, of course. They just said that he was wearing a burial shroud, just whatever their crazy story was. So he's an attendant. Okay, so we put neaniskos into Perseus, and we found that, okay, servant, youth, servant, my young man, servant, attending Jesus. Okay, that's what the words say. All right, we don't know about the purple. We know about the cloth. It looks like this. And he's a servant of Jesus, attending him. Okay, but in what capacity? Because it says following. That makes it sound like he was behind him. But this sunakoluthé is attending to, accompanying. You're not just following, you're together with, side by side, attendance, as you'll see. Now, I didn't know that until I put sunakoluthé into Perseus. And what we see, following along closely, attending to, obeying. Obeying, what does this word mean? This is the first word after. So this word here, so this is the English description, further clarified by the actual Greek word, which, I don't know what that means until I click on it, and then I find out. Ooh, so this younger youth is a servant of Jesus, attending him in an obeying, regimented fashion. How's that? So that is the essence of the story. That's really all it is. And for some reason, these guys have to put on their interpretive lens of zogron, which prevents them from seeing this, the truth, the zogron. I think we should take very seriously what Thomas Jefferson wrote 230 years ago, almost. We should take this very, very seriously.